Aloha, this is Reverend Tim Lytle, and I want to welcome you here to Unity Church of Hawaii, which is at the base of Diamond Head Mountain. Here at this loving ohana, ohana is a Hawaiian word which means family, we celebrate the Spirit living as us. And we celebrate the spiritual principles that are very practical ways to live life. Please join us as often as you can and join us online as we celebrate these spiritual principles and celebrate the amazing spiritual being that you are. Aloha.
Merry Christmas.
Wow, thank you, Guy. And we're lighting the candles on the Advent wreath. The first one represents faith, and so we're in the third week. So the first one represents faith. You remember what the second one represents? Peace. Yeah, sometimes there's a little different order at various churches. Okay? And then today is love. Right. And so we are working our way towards Christmas. And you may wonder what the pink candle is about. Come next week and find out. It's such a joy to be moving into this Christmas season. And so it's coming. Christmas is coming. I mean, ready or not, it's coming. Well, during this time of year, we have all this wonderful Christmas music, and many of them have this sense of peace and this sense of calm and all of that. But the truth is, most of us don't always experience peace and calm in our lives. A number of us probably have some tension at times. Now, maybe you are one of those fortunate individuals where angels come down and fan you every day, and they feed you and they pay your bills. Yes, Tony Barron, yeah, and Ralph Hartman, okay, great. And so, some of you don't know about conflict or tension in your life, but most of us experience, on some degree or another, some tension, some conflict. And it, as a child, kind of, created this cognitive dissonance, this, like my head went on tilt, because everything sounded so peaceful about the birth of Jesus. And then I looked at my life, and I looked at the lives of those around me, and it looked like anything but peaceful. And I wondered, what happened? What was the disconnect? But what has occurred to me is that it wasn't peaceful then either. We like to pretend it is, but when Jesus was born 2,000 years ago, it wasn't peaceful then. And those stories, those very significant scriptures in the Bible and other spiritual teachings, not only talk about what happened thousands of years ago, but talk about what's going on in our consciousness today. So I want to look at that. Now, there is the tendency of ministers to talk about, and if we could lower the screen, love it, thank you. There's this tendency to talk about those things leading up to the birth of Jesus. And then once we get past the birth of Jesus, at Christmas time, a lot of ministers are like, whew, glad that's over, and then some of these great stories get missed. So I wanted to get some of these stories in there because they don't get talked about a lot. Some of those stories about soon after Jesus was born. And I have a priest friend who is in Wichita, and my priest friend called up his favorite radio station a few years ago. And he called them up to complain about the fact that they were playing continuous Christmas music. Now, this was a priest, okay? But he's in so many services that he's hearing Christmas music, he called up to this radio station to complain about all the Christmas music. And what they said to him was, well, Father, we think you need to get into the Christmas spirit. And sometimes we lose some of that Christmas spirit when we see the tension that is going on in our lives. But this comes from Matthew chapter 2, the escape to Egypt. When they had gone, that's the wise men. When the wise men had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Joseph, okay, the stepfather of Jesus. Get up. Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him. So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night and left for Egypt, where they stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet. And this is in Hosea. Out of Egypt I called my son. So we not only look at what happened 2,000 years ago, but also what's happening in our consciousness. So the angel of the Lord, that Greek word for angel is angelos. Angelos literally means messenger. And so Charles Fillmore says there are constant messages that are being delivered to our spirit from God. There are constant messages and ideas coming to us if we are open to it, if we are available. And here, Joseph represents, okay, this is metaphysical Bible interpretation. Meta, don't get scared of the word metaphysical. You don't have to go running out. Meta means greater than or beyond than physical. So beyond the physical, beyond the surface of things, there's this deeper meaning. And so Joseph represents intuitive wisdom. That's that wisdom that is inside you that knows the truth of things. Okay, for example, this was a fun example recently. Sometimes it's more profound than this, but this was great. We went with a couple to the craft fair. You know, have any of you gone to the craft fair at the Blaisdell Convention Center? Okay, we went to the craft fair. And, you know, I was kind of like, craft fair, okay. And I'm one of those who drags his feet when it comes to shopping. I was the one that they had a hard time getting out of there. I was just loving running to everything. But shopping and buying stuff, I bought way more than anybody else. But before we got in there, there was this long line to buy tickets to the event. Now, I had heard someone somewhere had free tickets. I didn't know who. I didn't know where. I was standing in the line to buy the tickets. And there was intuitive wisdom. There was that angel, okay? That message that came to me right over there. Walk over to those people. Just hang out. So I went over there, you know, and I was talking with somebody. And a woman said, "Do you need free tickets to this event?" I said, "Why, yes, I do." Funny you should ask. And so, you know, we all got free tickets to the event. I mean, that's just a simple little example, but that intuitive wisdom is always there. If we will listen, you know, we will be guided. Okay, so Mary, the mother of Jesus, represents the soul, and I think on an even deeper level, represents love. So when you get love and intuitive wisdom together, the Christ is born. When you are operating by love, balanced by intuitive wisdom, together we reveal and give birth to the Christ. Because we're not only talking about the birth of Jesus 2,000 years ago, which I celebrate and think is great, but we're celebrating giving birth to that Christ presence in us each day. The Christ presence is knowing that oneness with God, knowing that we are never separate or cut off from God. That Christ presence in us is that which can never be defeated. That Christ presence in us is that which never gives up, always has hope, always endures, has faith, has peace, has love, continues on, and never gives up. That can never be defeated. And we are giving birth to that every day. And so they were instructed to take the child to Egypt because Herod wanted to kill him. Okay, this symbolizes, what is it that tries to inhibit or kill off the Christ presence? Well, what does Herod represent? Represents the adverse ego. The adverse ego that wants to be in control no matter what, is especially afraid me right now of losing control. That part of us that is afraid to lose our power. Have you ever experienced that? Like fear of losing your power, fear of losing control, the need to be right. Oh, thanks. It'd be hard to talk while I am sucking on it. The need to make others wrong. I mean, have you ever been in that place? Others must be wrong because I'm right. And if they were right, they would be agreeing with me. And since they're not agreeing with me, they must be wrong. Okay, that's Herod consciousness. We all display it at various times, you know. And that Herod consciousness, it's what tries to inhibit and cast out the Christ presence. So, does this sound like a peaceful time in the life of Jesus? They're refugees. They're immigrants. They're in a foreign country. They're in Egypt. Okay? Egypt was an Arab country. And here was Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, a Jewish family. Okay? And traveling a long ways. I don't think they had Hawaiian Airlines. How did they get there? That's a pretty long ways. If you look at how far it is from Israel or Palestine down to Egypt, that's a pretty good trip. How'd they do that? And they weren't, I don't think, rich, you know? So this was a challenging time. Sometimes we think that when we're on the spiritual path, everything should be smooth. I remember as a college kid feeling this deep sense of calling to ministry. And then in seminary, I was the youth leader of an inner city church. Had a large African American youth group that I was the leader of, and it was growing, and these were inner city kids, and we had a great time in Kansas City, Missouri. I thought, wow, ministry is wonderful. Can't wait to be the pastor of a church. Because churches are peaceful places. Churches are places where people all agree and they all work in harmony with each other and they operate just on spiritual principle. They're dedicated to God. They only want what God wants. They're there for God, not for the ego. There couldn't be a safer place to work. So I remember going into my first church that I pastored. And here I was from an inner city church working with African American inner city kids. And where did I get called to? The foothills of the Ozarks. And so I was in a rural setting in the foothills of the Ozarks. And as soon as I got there, I found out, there's like it was this close from a church split. And one side was trying to pull me this way, and one side was trying to pull me that way. And I thought, what happened? I thought the church was supposed to be a peaceful place, a place of love. And I remember the first Christmas there and talking about, these stories of Christmas. And I'm thinking, you guys promised that there would be peace on earth. What happened? But what I've come to find out is that part of our spiritual journey is experiencing some of those challenges that help us to go deeper. In fact, what I've found out, let's take a deep breath on this one. In fact, what I've found out is that if we are serious about the spiritual journey, let's take another deep breath. If we are serious about the spiritual journey, we're actually asking for our stuff to be brought up so it can be healed. Eek! And how does the stuff come up? Well, it often comes up in conflict. It comes up in challenges. Recently, it wasn't a bad fight. No, we don't fight. But someone I love very, very much, and I saw things differently. Was that yesterday? Pardon me. And now, we're just very real with each other, So we got to go hiking. We went hiking and up in the rainforest, up in the mountains, and so forth, and had a great time. It was wonderful. We were sitting on a bench at one point after we had done a lot of hiking. Is it okay to share this? I'm already in it. I'm in it now. All right, I'm in it to win it. Okay. And she looked at me and said, I don't like you. And I'm thinking, that's nothing. Because sometimes I don't like me either. And what she likes me, right? Right? No pressure. That's part of life, that we encounter conflict. But as I was sitting there on the bench, I realized, the person that I'm most at conflict with is myself. And when I get into conflicts with someone else, a lot of that has to do with conflict that's within me, and I'm helping to create that in my environment. That's not fun to realize, but it's also empowering to realize, because that means I can do something about it. And what I do with that, here's this tension that's going on. It's time to, first of all, get that intuitive wisdom and that love working together so that we can reveal the Christ. There are times where we need to, how do I want to say this? Protect that dream, protect that Christ presence, and yet we know that it's coming. it's coming. That full expression of the Christ. No matter what's going on in our lives, it could be a physical challenge, but we know it's coming. That presence, that birth of the Christ to be fully revealed. We might be having relationship issues. By the way, ours is real good. She's laughing. That's a good sign. But you might be having relationship issues. But just know, it's coming. That greater and higher revelation of the Christ. You may be experiencing conflict in your field somewhere, in your job, or with some friends, or who knows who. And yet, know it's coming. The presence, the birth of the Christ coming forth as you. That's what we're here to do. We're here to reveal that spiritual presence, to unveil that Christ presence that is living as us, that wants to, again, be birthed as us. Let's give birth to the Christ this day and every day. God bless you. Thank you.
This